You're listening to the Leadership Blend Podcast.
I'm ready.
On the Thinking Out Loud Network. Check out the Thinking Out Loud Network at thinkingoutloudnetwork.com.
All right, everybody, we are back on this week's edition of the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo Rice, and my correspondent,
Simone Cherie.
All right, so we just had Dr. Rickman and Dr. Gaines, and we went over the top 10 issues in education for Georgia, which is a very insightful conversation. And now we're going to swap sides, but not completely, because this can actually go into what we were talking about on some kind of circle. So in the studio on today, look, this is my first time having this gentleman, this astute gentleman in front of me.
Stop it.
And I'm so honored that he took time out of his schedule. We have another doctor in the building, so I'm going to let him introduce himself and we will go from there. So tell everybody about you, sir.
Good afternoon, Dr. Shelton Good, CEO and president of Icarus Consulting.
All right, so tell us about your background, where you come from, what you do, all that good stuff.
So first, let's start by talking about Icarus Consulting. Okay. Veteran-owned, operated firm. We specialize in helping companies create a diverse and inclusive workplace.
Gotcha.
Now, there's a lot of people that do that. But what makes us special is that while some companies are concentrating exclusively on helping companies bring in talent from the outside, an emerging workforce that's primarily people of color, primarily women, we do that. But we also help companies say, don't forget about the people that's already here.
Right.
Let's not forget about the people that's already helping make you money, help making you successful. Let's make sure that you keep those people.
The inclusion piece,
Well, it's the inclusive piece, exactly. You know a little bit about this stuff. So that's what we do. I've got a team of superheroes, and each one of them have their own superpower. But all of them are executives. All of them have been in C-suites at companies, and so we know how to do this stuff by talking to boards and CEOs and their direct reports and driving it from the top, driving it from the top down. Like I said, I've been doing this. I've been a chief diversity officer or an HR executive for a number of companies. So if there's one thing I know, is how this stuff works on the outside. So now I get to do it from I know how it works on the inside.
Yeah,
so now I'm trying to drive it from the outside.
Cool. Okay, so because you were saying before we went on air that if you were to ask 20 people what does diversity mean, what would they say?
Well, if you ask 20 people, you're going to get 50 answers. And that's because everybody wants it to be what they want to be. So if you ask a person that's an activist on social justice, they're going to tell you it's about equality and equity, social justice. If you ask a marketer or a salesman, they're going to tell you it's about penetrating new markets and getting customers that we don't have, or getting new customers, or in the case of some companies, holding on to customers that we may be losing. If you're talking to a nonprofit, it's about, trying to make sure
the
that
income gaps and
you close disparities in healthcare and finance. If you ask a for-profit company, they're going to tell you, I need the best talent I can so that I can make the most money that I can. So everybody wants it to be what they want it to be, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. What I concentrate on is how you go about doing it.
Gotcha.
Okay.
There's not a one size fits all. And everybody wants to say, just pick up the book and do it, this way. Wrong.
Okay.
So how would you define it? So how do you define diversity in your line with what you do?
Yeah. So for me, diversity is simple. It's the differences that people bring to the workplace or to an organization, but it's also the things that's similar. And so let me give you an example. You and I, we're two African-American males. We have a lot of things in common, but we are also different. It is those similarities that help us work together, but it's also those differences when somebody allows us to be us that helps a company be successful and profitable. So you have to do both.
Okay.
When people lump together inclusion and diversity,
Right.
Can they be lumped together, or should they be two? I know they're not mutually exclusive, but they're not the same thing.
Right. So you got in any organization, any teams, organizations, nonprofits, families, you've got people that are diverse. They're different. Now, they're not going to always work together, collaborate together just automatically. You have to take some intentional actions to say, okay, how can I get you to do your best work? How do I get you to do your best work, but also get you to work together? And so it's inclusion is making sure this is a good way. And I'm sorry for using sports analogies, but with the passing of Kobe, prayers out to to his family and loved ones. And he's from Philly, by the way, where I'm from. So
Eagles fly, baby.
He's right on my mind. Actually played basketball against his father in high school. Think about a team. Everybody has to have a uniform. Everybody has to know what their position is. Everybody wants to get on a court. Now, when you get on the court, I need you to do what it is that you're supposed to do. But you're only going to do that if you feel a part of the team and if you get out on court. It's like, look, I don't get rebounds. I shoot 3 points. So let me shoot. So if I throw up a couple of 3-pointers, don't be yanking me off the court. That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm not supposed to be diving on the floor and stuff like that. People have to feel like I'm a part of the team and once you put me in the game, I'm going to be able to do what it is that I do. That's where people missing the ball. They hire you out of school. They give you a nice little signing bonus. Then they come and they say, sit down and shut up until, if I want a good idea out of you, I'll come and ask you. And then that person sticks around for a little while to see if anything's going to be different. Then they leave, but they just don't leave. They go on Glassdoor. They say, hey, you may not want to go to work for X or Y or Z. So and I'm sharing this because a lot of the people at the top of an organization don't understand how things work today. They think if I hire you, I give you a good salary, I give you a good bonus, what else do you want? And people coming to work today, they want a lot more.
So do you think that boils down to the generation differences, baby boomers versus X, Y, millennials?
Some of it. I hate this, stereotype and, give labels to people. I'm a father of 2 millennials. They are nothing like millennials. My 2 sons, they're both active duty military. They're nothing like millennials. But it's a lot of it. But I would say it's a lot of the fact that it's just easier to just treat everybody exactly the same. Cookie cutter. It's easier. I don't have to do any work. I don't have to think. I don't have to adapt. I don't have to flex. I just have to show up and, hey, you got on a uniform, whatever. And that's what it's hard work. It's harder. And that's what's different. Before, in years past, people, there was a belief that as long as you paid people well, gave them a safe, secure place to work, it didn't make a difference how you treated them. They were going to stick around until retirement. That's not the world we live in. So it's just not a lack of understanding based on generations. It's a lack of understanding because some leaders are just lazy. They just don't want to adapt to change.
I didn't expect you to say that.
I know you didn't.
I did not expect you to say that. I figured that the generations would play a factor into it.
Well, it is. It's easier. It's easier for people like me to blame it on millennials. Oh, it's their fault.
Most of y'all do.
Yeah. And guess what? I get a lot of feedback from my sons and my daughter about, we ain't the problem.
It's really not.
Or who's raising millennials?
Yeah. We've got the talent. We just want to contribute. But why do I have to sit at a desk 8 hours a day when I can work from Starbucks? I can work from home. I can do more on a MARTA train than you can. You work and then you come home and then you work some more. So I'm the last one that's going to say blame it on the emerging workforce. It's a little bit of everybody. It's a little bit of everybody. But the people that's at the top that's currently still running Fortune 150 companies are still I say, let's just put it like this. They have the most opportunity to learn and to grow. So yeah, and that's what I tell CEOs and boards when I talk to them.
Okay.
Caught you off guard with that, didn't I?
You did. I expected to see some wow factor and to find out that people just think you're lazy. That's really I did not expect that.
What about just unimaginative? Because I do feel like to a certain extent there's just a way in which people believe things ought to be. And I don't know that that's just generational. I think it also may be certain just types of personalities and maybe even certain industries, especially really maybe tax, maybe accounting, maybe certain industries where people are just a little less creative. And I think it even extends to government. Like we talked about this before with the human resources side or the job seeker side and how people believe that for a certain role you should have ABC, specific. They don't really have the imagination to say, well, you've not worked in at this particular sort of product company before. Like you haven't worked
Right.
for a software company before.
Right.
You know, but maybe you've worked on the hardware side. Maybe you have some, but it's like
Right.
whether it's for reasons of ATS or reasons of just the people responsible, they don't really necessarily see applicable talent all the time.
But you know what? The pendulum is swinging the other way. You're going to see things are being balanced out because of talent, because of the shortage of talent. So remember, you guys, you know, it wasn't that long ago, just a few short years ago, you had to have this degree
Right.
to be a programmer. You had to be this degree to be a coder. Not anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at the number of organizations that have announced, if you can code and you can
Okay.
show us
Yeah,
that you can
come
code,
on.
the
Yeah.
fact that you don't have a certain engineering degree from a certain school, they can't afford it anymore. Now it's about talent. Look at the announcement that Goldman Sachs just made. Goldman Sachs said, we're not taking companies public that don't have diverse boards. You didn't hear that stuff before. Do you think they've been enlightened? They finally looked at the data and the research that we've been telling them for years, that if you don't have diverse leadership and you don't have diverse boards, you're not going to be as profitable as your competitor. You're missing out. So Goldman Sachs, I mean, this company is what, $1 trillion? They're saying we're not going to take companies public if you have an all-male white board.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't just do that out of some largesse or some, you know, whatever.
There's a bottom
They did
line.
that- Come on, this is Goldman Sachs.
Okay.
Yeah, this is, and again, I saw it with the military. You know, the military for years. If you was in the military and you were anything other than heterosexual, it was considered a threat to good order and discipline.
Right.
Now, not only have they moved past don't ask, don't tell, but they've gone all the way to the part of transgender.
Right.
And even when the current administration tried to reverse it, they found out we can't. If you can fight, if you and
you're willing.
and you're willing to take a bullet,
My God.
then guess what? Here's
Yeah.
we'll take you. Again, this is not some great enlightenment. They're coming to the realization that the talent. Are you really going to pass up on a person that can do the job and is willing to do the job under the conditions that you're asking them to do the job, and you're going to pass on that person? So, the talent. That's where we're at, literally.
So we're at productivity. It doesn't matter who can get the job done as long as it gets done.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Yeah.
This is much more optimistic than the last segment. I mean, I think.
Come on. I mean, did you not hear the story? There's a couple stories again with Kobe's passing, but there was a story before that. The big story was that is it time to have your first female play in the NBA? I mean, guys, we're moving. I know it seems like we're moving at glacial speed, but we are making the leaps that people are even willing to have a conversation to discuss. That was not happening 5-10 years ago. So I'm hopeful, optimistic that some of the stuff we've been talking about for years and years and years, you know, we're seeing some movement on some of it. I'm all about results. I'm all about actions. And that's what I'm telling CEOs. I don't want to hear the
only have
words.
so much
Tell me what you are doing to make a difference.
So I guess that's my question, because you've been in this and you've seen it definitely from the corporate side.
Right.
So is this change because it's necessity, or is this change because they're out of options at this point?
Necessity. They're not out of options. There's always the options that if you want to make one less dollar, that's always an option. Nobody wants to take.
They're not going to do
They're
that.
going to do that.
They're not gonna do that.
But it's necessity, and it's in, if I can put in a shameless plug for my next book, Beyond Inclusion, creating a culture of compassion, civility, and common sense. We're approaching the age of common sense. We are. It may not appear like it.
No,
She pushes back. We are.
it doesn't appear like it.
Of course it doesn't.
I hope so.
Tell me what it looks like to you.
Increasingly uncommon. I think it looks like kind of like this. I think it looks like a group of people who are like, well, what works? What's safe? What's impactful? Let's do that. And a group of people who are saying, we need to go back to the way that things used to be, and the way that we were very, very comfortable, and the life was certainly more predictable, or at least people were more predictable.
Okay, that's interesting.
And for all of its broader implications, for the workplace dynamics in which some people are frustrated they can't just hug their coworkers anymore. They want to be able to hug. They want to be able to have guy-on-guy conversations in a locker room or in a break room, and they feel offended that they can, to the extent that other folks feel like, well, we're going to have pay transparency, and some companies are like, pay is now going to be totally available, and some people are like, well, yeah, because we want pay equity, and other people are like, I don't want people knowing what I make. It feels like there's I don't know if it's 50-50 or not, but it definitely feels like there's a certain level of society that just wants to go this way and certain.
Yeah, you're describing to me the struggle, when really we weren't even having a struggle before.
That's
we
true.
weren't even.
That's
It
true.
was not even a struggle.
True.
There was just a one size, one white male dominated companies. The rules, and if you didn't want to go by those rules, then you were unemployed. But the struggle, there's a struggle now, and so I consider that struggle progress. I consider, and I don't know how it's going to all come out. I'm not. I don't have a crystal ball, but again, the fact that they're having struggles. I was on active duty when they had the first female pilots in fighter aircraft. I mean, that wasn't heard of before. Again, you ask me necessity or out of options. I think it's a mixture of all of it. I think it's a little bit of this. I think it's a little bit of that.
So for companies that are struggling with it, when you go in, what do you say then? What do you do when you first go into a company that says, hey, we don't feel like we're diverse enough, we're trying to get it done, but we just can't seem to get it? What do you do when you walk through the doors?
I use a primary care approach. I have a very good primary care doctor. And when I go to see him and I complain to him about an illness, he says, well, tell me about it. Then he says, well, let me run a couple tests. Then he says, this is what I think we need to do. And he doesn't, whether you do it or not, you're gonna pay him.
Okay.
I'm loving life as a consultant now because I go into and I take the same approach. Tell me what's going on. Literally, why am I here? Tell me what's going on. What is it that's not happening that you want to happen, or what's happening that you want to stop, or what would you like to get better at? And then I says, well, tell you what, let me kind of check things out. Let me survey your employees. Let me do some interviews. Let me do some focus groups. Those are my labs. And then I come back and says, hey, you got an opportunity. You got some perceptions in your company of this. I don't think it's the reality. I don't see any evidence but there are some perceptions. You got a little bit of this. But here's what you need to do to get better.
Without naming names, can you talk about some of your findings, some of the tests that you
Yeah, there's some under.
Without naming.
Yeah. So here's one. I have had clients that had been given awards for being the best workplace for women, best workplace for minorities.
Badges.
They do those awards, right? And then the employees are like, they rolling their eyes, right? I wish we was on television so I could do my best eye rolling. They rolling their eyes like, yeah, right. Who did they pay off? And then so I'll look at the CEO directly in the eye. I says, you just been recognized by some, and I'm not going to give anybody any plugs, but you just been recognized by X as being a best employer for women. Would you like to know what your women think? We surveyed 500 women. And here's what they said. And before you start challenging the data, it's statistically significant. I've got 3 PhDs on my team. We know how to do, so this is data. Now, you don't have to believe it, but here's what they're saying. Oh, by the way, just in case you don't believe that, we did some focus groups. We looked at white women, black women, Asian, women that's been here 5 days, women that's been here 5 years, and people that are under 35. And here's what here's your MRI. Here's your X-ray. Now you're gonna argue with me. The bone is broke.
Yeah.
And you're gonna tell me, well, it just hurt a little bit. No. Here's your picture. And even the strongest, the companies that the deepest in denial, they can't argue with their own data.
But I guess it's my question, though, even showing them the data, how susceptible are they to making change?
It depends on what I suggest they have to do to change. It's like if your knees hurt and somebody says, hey, Ricardo, you got to lose 80 pounds. It's like, well, wait a minute. Maybe my knees don't hurt so bad because they don't
deal with the pain.
Because I don't want to do because they feel like the pain of change is more than the pain of what's going on in the company. And so susceptible, are they open to doing what needs to be done? It depends on what needs to be done. This is what I've been successful at helping my clients understand. We're not going to try to do everything. Let's pick 2 or 3 things? Let's pick 2 or 3. Which 2 of this list of 20, which ones can you commit to doing? Which ones can you hang in there and do? So, and then I let them pick the 2 or 3 things. And then guess what we do? We do those, and then we do just like you would for your doctor, come back in for checkups. It's like here's what the progress, and we go back to the people. If we do those 2 or 3 things, we have them share with the audience, their employees. Here's what we're going to do different, and we need you to help us, and we need you to let us know if we're making progress. And then we keep checking up, and then they says, oh man, guess what? We're getting more comfortable with the things that we're having to do. We're getting more confident because they're seeing progress, and then they get more competent. Well, Dr. Good, what's next? We knocked that out the park. What it's like, oh, okay. Well, we just dealt with the women. Let's take a look at what African Americans have to say. And they're like, oh God.
I'm about to say,
and so it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
I have a really good question before you move on from there, because you're talking about kind of dissecting things from the top down,
right?
And the tone is set from the top,
right?
But that brings me to the question of like flatter organizations and this new trend that I feel like, not even a new trend, but there's definitely some groups in some sectors where it's more common that there are less levels.
Yes.
So, I'm wondering if you can ever bridge that ignorance gap between a C-suite person thinking that they know exactly what's going on and that eye roll. Like, is there ever a way to just make it flat enough that at least people aren't shocked when they...
Yes. So here's a secret recipe. I got to sway you to we got to take 8 oaths and have you sign 20 documents, but no, not really. What we help them do is deal with things so that they understand that at the end of the day, this comes down to how one manager treats one employee.
Okay.
And we break it down that at the end of the day, we may do a lot of things, but we say, you're going to judge the company and whether or not things are getting better by how, if I'm your manager, how I'm making your life every day. Am I helping you? Am I helping you grow? Am I helping you learn? Or am I just making a challenging job just that much more difficult? Or worse, taking a job that you can do with your eyes closed and then making you have to do that work under such stupid conditions. That's just like, I'm gonna go someplace else. And so that's where the change. And at the end of the day, when we go back with that checkup, that's what we are telling them is we go back and say 50% of the people, when we ask them, do you trust your supervisor? Is your supervisor treating you with respect? Do you feel valued here? 90%, we give them a number. And we're looking for 65% or more to say that I agree or strongly agree that my supervisor's treating me better or whatever. And so it comes down to how you're being treated. Now we do start with the CEO because we tell them, you know what, when a person is going through it at work, they assume that you know or should know what's going on. And I know it doesn't make a difference. The company is 100,000 or 100. They assume that the person at the top, and this is how you say, well, why is that, Dr. Good? Because they assume that my manager's manager knows that I'm going through it. My manager's manager's manager knows that I'm going, people know. And so it may not be fair, but that's the way people perceive their everyday work life.
Gotcha.
So for companies that are not for profit,
right?
Would you give the same advice?
I would. We're still talking about, at the end of the day, we are still talking about, does the worker feel respected? I don't care what their difference is. Or more importantly, because of their difference, do they feel respected? Do they feel valued because of their expertise? That's what you hired them for. So do they feel as though you're allowing me to play my game? Are you allowing me to contribute? And do I feel like I belong? Do I feel, and then, because when you put all those together, that's when people do their best work. Other than that, they'll just show up, they'll go along, and they'll go online, and they'll start filling out resumes on your clock, and you're still paying them, and it's no doubt in my mind, you get two really engaged employees that feel valued, respected, that they belong. They can do the work of 4 or 5 people. It happens every day. And you see it in your fraternities,
sure.
your sororities, at church functions. 20% of the people do 80% of the work. Whenever you need something done, it's always the same 20% of you know who you can count on. Hey, we gotta do a fundraiser. We gotta do this. Go to church. Look at your sororities, fraternity. It's the same thing. It's always the engaged people.
That's why I hate group projects.
Carrying the weight. Huh?
That's why I hate group projects. Yeah.
I had to learn how to. They made us learn in the doctorate program, so I had to learn how to work in groups. It's not my favorite thing to do, but I've learned how. Yeah,
because in the work world, you're going to be working on groups, on teams, and stuff like that. You can't produce the best results.
Unless you're a solopreneur. I do have one question. I do have just one question because I know we're about to run out of time. But what about we were talking in the last segment about people who end up in positions of authority, and sometimes that's just like a natural progression because it's historic. That if you're great at this, let's make you manager.
Yes.
Are a lot of people in those positions that you're consulting? Should they, in your own opinion, no, not naming names, do they really have the skill set to be there in the first place?
In leadership.
In leadership, I don't know. The answer to your question is I don't know. But I will tell you this. As a part of that assessment that we talk about, we tell, you say, are they open to change? One of the things I do tell a CEO, we're going to find out what's going on. And it could be, you may have some people that may need to go. Are you willing and prepared to do that? I said, well, Dr. Good, bring me back the data first. Bring me back the evidence, and then we'll take it from there. But I have worked for clients where we had to take some people out of leadership that they just should not. They were very, very good at what they did, CFOs or whatever, but they had to go for a number of different reasons. Yeah, they have to go. And so I can give you millions of examples, but yes, some people should not be in a leadership position. Now, what I always try to do, and I tell the CEO, we're not going to just go in and we're not here to get people fired. In fact, if you're willing to pay us, we will coach the person. We will help the person. We'll do everything we can. But when we come to you and say, we've done everything we can, you need to make a decision. And then at the end, it's up to the organization to do what's in the organization's best interest.
All right, everybody. I think that's a good place to end. So I'm going to leave it there. All right, bye. So there we have it from the good doctor. Any final thoughts? I don't want to not give you any final thoughts to those companies that are smaller companies that are struggling with diversity, inclusion, retention, all those good things? Yeah,
my thing to them would be don't try to do everything. Just pick one or two things that you can do. Cost-effective, budget-friendly things to do. And if you don't know, you can call icarusconsult.net, or you can reach out to myself, Dr. Shelton Good, and you can reach me on LinkedIn or again on our website at icarusconsult.net, and we'll help you. We'll even talk to you free for the first couple.
How about that? It must like a 30-minute consult.
Yeah, why not?
Well, hey,
why not?
This was valuable.
Okay,
works for me.
Cool.
All right, buddy. So there you have it. We'll see you guys next Monday, same time, same place, on the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice.
You're listening to the Leadership Blend podcast.
I'm ready.
On the Thinking Out Loud Network. Check out the Thinking Out Loud Network at thinkingoutloudnetwork.com.